Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner? Here on Bonds and Stories, we retell those moments honest every day, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. Slack was popping on a Monday when my phone lit up with Mom. Sharon Hart doesn't call. She sends ellipses-heavy texts or a coupon photo with "Can you help?" I let it ring once, then answered. "Riley, honey?" She whispered, papery soft, as if speaking from a curtain. "I've been lightheaded. Doctor says my blood pressure's been spiking. Your father's at the plant. I hate to ask, but I could use you here for a bit." "What about Brooke? She's 10 minutes away. She's buried in the PTA fundraiser and baseball." "Evan's traveling." "I don't want to be a burden." A thready pause. "Could you fly in just a week or two until I'm steady?" Behind her, I heard Maple Ridge, the old fridge a cardinal at the glass, the TV too loud. Sprint Review pulsed on my screen. "I can come," I said before the guilt hardened. "I'll figure it out." "Bless you?" Her voice brightened a shade. "Text when you land." Inez, my manager, pushed her glasses up when I knocked. "Everything okay?" "Family," I said. "Mom's not well. I need to go to Ohio for a bit." "Take your PTO," she said. "We'll cover the review. Don't burn both ends." By dawn, I was rolling a carry-on across Austin's glossy tile. The flight north stitched brown into green. Maple Ridge hadn't changed. The cul-de-sac wore its flags like Sunday ties. The mailbox leaned. The mint siding was more idea than color. Mom opened before I could knock. Freshly colored hair matched her sweater. Lipstick, earrings, perfume. Color in her cheeks. "There you are." She pulled me into her lilac cloud. "Traveling takes it out of you." "You sound better," I said. "It comes and goes." She waved me down the hall. The carpet gave on familiar soft spots. Family photos tracked us, Brooke in a prom sash, Dad with a trophy fish, versions of me holding cakes I baked for other people. The living room was full. Dad in his recliner, white socks, baseball highlights looping. Brooke on the couch, glossy ponytail and leggings. Evan with a headset around his neck. Liv and Max wrestling over a tablet, Finn gnawing a giraffe and a gold-eyed labradoodle whose tail drummed the hardwood. Brooke clapped. She made it. "Hey, kid," Dad said, eyes on the screen. "How was the flight?" "Fine," I said. The dog, Nacho per the last Christmas card, leaned against my shin like we were old friends. Mom lifted her chin with ceremony. "So, we have some timing to sort out. Brooke and Evan have an adults-only trip to Napa and Sonoma. It's been on the books since January. We leave Thursday. 10 days. She smiled, pleased with the sentence. The words arranged themselves, adults, only 10 days timing to sort out. "What timing do you need me to sort?" Brooke handed me a laminated sheet in pastel boxes. Liv's camp starts at 9. Max has swim at 10 on odd days. Finn naps 1 to 3, but he won't go down unless you play whale sounds from my Spotify. No strawberries for Max. Liv melts down if she can't find her teal scrunchie before school. Evan raised a finger. Nacho eats at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. He does a little circle before he goes. That's your signal. Also, the fence gate sticks give it a hip. I studied the laminate, the tiny font that turned people into columns and rules. In the corner was my name, Riley, slotted from dawn to bedtime like a bar of color. "You said your blood pressure was high," I said to Mom. "It was," she said too fast. "It is sometimes. If I rest and don't worry about the kids, I'll come back right as rain." Napa, Dad said, tasting it. "They pour you flights like you're someone." I traced pastel squares. Thursday, Liv drop-off. Max swim. Finn music class. Nacho circle gate hip. Laundry symbols I didn't recognize. A note about soccer snacks with the energy of a command. In my chest, something old and hinged creaked. Brooke tilted her head. "You brought your laptop right. You can do your data stuff during naps. Honestly, you're so lucky you can just open a computer and the job happens." Mom tutted. "Brooke." "What?" "It's a compliment." She flashed a smile, bright and thin. "It's not like you're in an operating room. You'll be fine." Inez's voice surfaced. "Don't burn both ends." Dad flipped to golf. Max's cannon sound effect popped. The dog sighed. My name pulsed from the laminate's corner, a small engineered block of usefulness. On the mantel, between a ceramic eagle and a photo of Brooke, cutting a ribbon for something called Maple Ridge Moms Who Do, sat a yellowed index card in my grandmother's round hand, butter room temp, sugar cream until your arm complains. The handwriting had survived 3 kitchens and 30 holidays. It tightened my throat. Mom squeezed my forearm, the squeeze that meant the logistics had been presented. "Family helps family," she said. "We don't always do it pretty, but we do it. It'll be good for you to have some time at home." I took a breath. The laminate flexed and popped in my hands. Nacho's tail ticked against the baseboard like a metronome no one had set. "Sure," I said, smoothing my mouth into something like a smile. "Family helps family." "When do you leave Thursday?" Mom said, turning the word like a key. "We'll drive to the airport after breakfast. Your father needs to print the boarding passes, and Brooke has to drop the kids' permission slips at camp first." Brooke slid the laminated sheet closer, tapping colored blocks with a gel pen. I added snack specifics. Liv only eats the peanut butter with the blue lid, no off-brand she can tell. Max's sandwich must be triangles, not rectangles. Finn likes his banana cold. You'll need to move it to the fridge the night before. Her smile was managerial. Also, his naps happen only if you run that Whale Sounds playlist from my Spotify, not yours. The algorithm's tuned. Evan swiveled on the ottoman headset, making a halo. "You can use the Subaru," he said. 3 car seats across the back. The middle one's tricky thread the belt through the lower anchor and tug twice. There's a sweet spot. The key, I asked. Mom fished in her purse and produced a heavy ring with a pink pom-pom. "Garage, Subaru, shed, and mailbox. Don't use the side door unless you hip check it." She smiled like the hip check was a family joke I'd forgotten. The dog thumped his tail. Nacho's eyes tracked the gel pen, convinced it might be edible. "We'll do a handoff rehearsal tomorrow," Brooke said. "Bath routine, pajamas, teeth stories." Finn gets "Goodnight Moon" every other night, or he thinks it's special occasion and won't sleep. Dad clicked from baseball to weather. "Storms on the plains," he said to no one. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and something baked last week. The yellowed recipe card on the mantel watched. I nodded through the rehearsal talk the way I nodded through sprint agendas when someone added scope after the deadline. The laminate was warm under my palm, its plastic edge a bite mark in my thumb. We practiced the handoff like a relay. Brooke narrated the house as if to a camera where the sunscreen lives by the back door, SPF 50 only where the extra sippy cups hide top drawer left of the stove, the one that sticks where the emergency snacks are concealed, so Liv won't strip the pantry bare behind the casserole dishes. Liv brought me her teal scrunchie and demanded I learn its exact shade, not mint, not seafoam, teal. Max slid me a crayon diagramming the acceptable triangle to bread ratio. Finn shoved a board book at my knees and laughed at the page with the cow. At bath time, Brooke set bottles on the tile like chess pieces. "This is detangler, this is curl cream, this is the one that smells like marshmallow and makes Liv behave." "Water too hot?" I asked. "It needs to be exactly at the blue dot on the faucet," she said deadpan. "Otherwise they revolt." "Revolt," Liv repeated, delighted with the word. Nacho whined at the bathroom door. Evan nudged it closed with his heel and gave me a sympathetic half-smile, the kind you give a coworker just before you assign them the Saturday shift. After the kids were down, I stepped onto the back deck with a laminated sheet and let the Ohio night bump my skin. Fireflies stitched slow Morse over the lawn. Across the fence, Mr. Klein's porch light hummed. It was a childhood sound, the invisible bees of summer. My phone buzzed. A Slack ping winked and then vanished. I'd muted everything. But muscle memory twitched. I scrolled to Inez anyway and typed, "Made it." "Mom's okay. Situation, layered." I erased layered type, complicated, erased that too. Words like suitcases pack one and you're stuck with it. I finally sent in Ohio. PTO in effect. Appreciate you. 3 dots then. "Take the time, Riley. No guilt. We've got the review. Breathe." I pocketed the phone and stared at the SUV's dark shape in the driveway. In the kitchen, Mom rearranged Tupperware with the zeal of someone who believed order could preempt chaos. On the fridge, 2 magnets bracketed a postcard of a lighthouse, a triangle of white on a cliff spray lifting at its base. "Portland Head Light," the caption said in a tidy font. Aunt June had sent it last fall with, "You'd love the coast come September." I caught myself looking at the card too long and turned away as if the photograph might hear me. Riley, Mom called, "Do you want tea? You look peaky." "I'm fine," I said, and meant it in the way people mean I will be. Tuesday turned into a training montage with people. We did drop-off dry runs. The Subaru's seatbelt sweet spot revealed itself at the third tug as promised. At camp, the counselor with a whistle the size of a walnut asked, "Are you the aunt the way people ask? Are you the backup plan?" Liv introduced me as my mom's sister, who lives where tacos are good. Max asked if Austin had sharks. Finn fell asleep mid-Cheerio, his mouth ajar, the whale song a soft tunnel in the air. Brooke opened the freezer and quizzed me on popsicle colors red. Before dinner, never orange after soccer, fine blue, only, if no photos would be taken, it's stained. Evan stood by the fence gate and demonstrated the hip check like a linebacker. Mom set out pill bottles like trophies and explained her new blood pressure cuff with a flourish that made the word spike sound like a party decoration. At noon, she opened a drawer and produced a relic, a laminated chore chart from the year the printer finally got a color cartridge. Riley, in neat letters down the left boxes, checked in blue. Brooke, in a softer hand, pink boxes trailing off by April. Dishes, sweep, trash, bathrooms, vacuum. Each check a small proof. My throat went tight for half a second, then eased. The paper had bowed where someone's elbow wore it shiny. "Found this when I did the pantry," Mom said, as if she'd found a baseball card. "Remember, you kept us afloat that year. Your father's shifts were crazy. Brooke had everything." Everything, I echoed, folding the sound until it was flat. "I'm proud of you girls," she said, which was true. In the way weather is true, you feel it or you don't. When nap time landed, I put Finn down with the whales and cleaned the kitchen the way I clean a data model. Touch each node once make its edges clear. The laminate schedule went under a magnet on the fridge. Nacho climbed onto his bed with a groan like an old door and watched me. There's a particular gaze dogs give unburdened by the human knack for performing. He offered it generously. I scratched the notch in his ear and he closed his eyes like that was the deal we'd made. I carried my laptop to my childhood room, now a spillover closet with an iron bed and a stack of Rubbermaid tubs labeled Christmas school projects, Miss Key. The window looked over Mrs. Klein's peonies, their heads heavy as secrets. I opened the computer and typed Bar Harbor Lodging the way other people type the names of exes, lightly expecting wreckage, hoping for something else. The map populated with blue ovals. Oceanfront inns with porches, clappered B&Bs in white, a motel with a sign like a movie set. I sorted by quiet and walkable. An inn with a wide veranda and a view of Frenchman Bay lifted to the top like a dare. I clicked book and watched the progress wheel like a second hand. The confirmation landed with a small ding. A room with a window that faced water. 2 breakfasts included. A note about sticky buns at dawn. Flights Bangor was the nearest. Earliest. I picked one that required leaving the house when the cul-de-sac slept. A shuttle service took reservations down to the minute. Their website loved clocks every page, a parade of times. I filled the fields without drama, put my Texas number in twice, and felt something unclench where my shoulders meet my neck. Dinner was lasagna reheated and garlic bread too crunchy. Dad said we'd be fine without him. His back didn't like planes. Mom cataloged her packing. Brooke listed restaurants in wine country from memory, mouth curving like a postcard. "We'll bring you a bottle," she said, generous as a raffle. Evan promised a t-shirt for Max if he survived swim without eating the foam noodle again. The jokes were perfectly calibrated to sound easy. After dishes, I drove Brooke's listlessness to target her word not mine and bought sunscreen, baby wipes, and 5 other things I held like props. On the way back, I turned into the strip mall and found the outdoor store wedged between a nail salon and a tax prep place. In the fluorescent hush, I bought a day pack that didn't squeak and hiking socks that promised no blisters. At the register, a bowl of pins said, "Take 1." I took 2, take the long way and here goes. I put them in my pocket, then tucked the bag into the trunk beneath the paper towels and goldfish crackers. At home, I stood at the sink running water until it went cold, then folded into the guest bed with my jeans on. The laminated schedule lay face down on the nightstand, the dog pressed to the hall rug like a guard. Through the wall, I heard Mom's voice drifting up from a phone call. "Sugar, over Steel Riley's here." "It's all arranged." The refrigerator hummed faithful. A late train sounded its horn beyond the black trees, the note drawing a bright line through the dark. I set the alarm without thinking about it too hard, a small clock icon glowing by the time. Then I turned the phone over dark to the ceiling and let the room go quiet enough to hear my own breath. The alarm found me before the birds did. 4:10 glowed pale on the screen, the kind of hour that feels borrowed. The house held its breath. Floorboards remembered where to groan and did not. I slid from the guest bed, shoes in hand, the laminated schedule a white rectangle on the nightstand like a directive I wasn't signing. Nacho lifted his head from the hall runner. One thump of the tail, then another polite as a question. I scratched once between his ears and felt the notch in his left one. Back to bed, I whispered. He considered it. He obeyed. Downstairs, the kitchen kept up its soft machines, fridge hum, clock tick, the sink pipe's faint tick as it settled. I left a note beside the coffee maker, something that could be true and useless at the same time, going to grab bagels. Be back? The pen left a furrow through the last word, where my hand hesitated and moved anyway. The garage door shuddered, then drifted up with less noise than I remembered. I slipped past the Subaru, the 3 car seats a row of small thrones, and into the cool pre-dawn. The shuttle driver texted here with the punctuation of a person who didn't have the luxury of exclamation points before sunrise. He wore a cap and a thermos, and the smell of coffee. Airport, he said, and the van's dome light went out as if that settled it. Maple Ridge at 4:30 is a bare stage. Lawn still black porches, empty flags asleep. Mr. Klein's porch light hummed alone. The van's tires hissed on the misted asphalt. The driver didn't ask why a woman with Texas plates and Ohio eyes needed Bangor, and I didn't volunteer. A deer looked up from the ditch and didn't run. Past the feed store and the diner with the neon coffee cup that never goes off past the ball fields and the Fish Fry Church sign. We turned toward the highway, and the dark got thinner. At the airport, Metal remembered who it was. Belts, bins, the ritual of removing small things from larger ones. The TSA agent said morning with the resigned cheer of a person who has said it since 3 and will keep saying it long after. I put my day pack on the belt and watched it disappear. I was light, no suitcase, no second thoughts heavy enough to need wheels. Gate chairs are made to hold time. I sat in one and let it. When the sun pulled itself up, it found Ohio square by square, then stripe by stripe, then everything. People arrived holding coffee cups like passports. A toddler in pajamas, a man in work boots, a college kid in a hoodie that insisted on a school I didn't attend. I texted Inez airborne soon, and she replied with a single thumbs up, which felt like a door held open without commentary. Up, then clouds, then down. The patchwork gave way to pine and water. Bangor's terminal had that clean small-town library, calm the kind that trusts you to whisper. The rental car guy slid my license back under the glass and gave me a paper map, as if I might be the sort of person who liked to put a finger on a road and say this one. Outside, the air traded Midwestern heaviness for something salt clean. My lungs tried it and approved. The road to the coast braided through spruce and granite. Signs promised blueberries and antiques as if they were equally urgent. Houses turned gray and white, the clapboard and shingle logic of a place that fights weather without drama. I slowed for a town where the general store had a bench out front and a plaque that said in memory of Ruth, who liked to sit and watch. Bar Harbor arrived all at once, masts, gulls a curve of water, holding the light like a trick. The inn from the confirmation email had a porch that looked like it meant everything it put in its photos. A woman at the desk said, "Welcome Riley," as if that was a word she hadn't had to practice. My room faced Frenchman Bay. 2 windows, a bed that admitted the possibility of sleep, a chair that understood how a person might want to face the water to think. On the dresser sat a plate under a glass dome. 2 sticky buns kept their secrets. I washed my face and left it bare, opened the windows an inch, and listened to a gull cuss the wind. Only then did I turn my phone fully on. It vibrated like a pocket hive, missed calls stacking on missed calls until the number lost its meaning. Text bubbles, a choir of panic and punctuation. "Where are you from, Mom? Call me now from Brooke. Are you in the garage from Dad? A photo of Liv's teal scrunchie with she can't find it. Where did you put it?" A string from Evan that began civil and accelerated. I let them parade past. It took longer than I thought to scroll to the top. I called Mom because that's the axis the house spins on even when the point squeaks. She answered on the first ring. Riley. No endearment, just my name, sharp as the corner of a counter you've hit twice. Where are you? In Maine, I said. The window let in water and a bell from a buoy, regular and sane. Bar Harbor. A silence that wanted to be a scream and pulled itself together. You left, without telling us. I left, I said. I left a note. I didn't mention bagels. You know we leave today, she said, voice corralling emotion into usefulness. We have a non-refundable reservation. Your father printed the boarding passes. Brooke has the house packed to a science. The children. She stopped herself from saying need. We counted on you. You also told me your blood pressure was spiking and made it sound urgent. I kept my tone even. You asked me to fly across the country because you were unwell. I was lightheaded, she said, seizing the nearest part of the truth. I am lightheaded. Sometimes, the doctor would probably not prescribe using your daughter as an all-purpose solution. I let that sit. The buoy kept time. You can ask me for help. You can also hear no. You could have said no when I called, she snapped. And there it was, the private rule spoken out loud. I could have, I said. I didn't because you said you were sick. You opened a door with that. I walked through the one I needed. A breath like she'd remembered to take one and resented the reminder. Brooke and Evan can't go if you're not here. We can't go. We can't leave 3 children without care. Are you hearing me? I am, I said. I'm also hearing that the plan depended on me being both available and agreeable. No one asked if my job could flex if I had anything else on my calendar if I wanted to. You're single, she said, as if that were a multi-purpose key. You can work from a laptop. We thought this was simple. It isn't, I said, and my being single doesn't make me a resource you book and forget to confirm. On her end, paper crackled. Maybe the laminated schedule, maybe a magazine. Your sister is upset, she said, softening at the edges to see if that would fix things. The kids are crying. Liv can't find her hair thing. Max won't eat. Finn, we'll nap if you put on whales, I said, and almost smiled, which felt like a betrayal and didn't stick. Mom, you can hire someone. You can split the trip. You can stay. I knew the last option was a foreign language. You're enjoying this, she said then. And I recognized the move assign motive, so you don't have to investigate cause. You wanted to teach us a lesson. I wanted to breathe, I said. That's all. It was small and accurate, and I watched it hit, then slide off, then hit again. Your father's going to lose the deposit. She said, back to money, which is easier to count than respect. We don't have. You owe me, I said, and stopped because tallying in this tone could turn into a ledger I didn't want to keep reading from. The summer chore chart. The Venmos that didn't come back. The holidays that didn't call. You don't owe me money, I corrected quietly. You owe me honesty. You owe me the courtesy of a straightforward ask. I am your mother, she said, as if that closed every door. And I am your daughter, I said, matching the shape, not the force. Who is in Maine at a window that faces water? I hope you get to go to Napa someday. Maybe not this week, but someday. Her breath fuzzed the microphone. I pictured her at the kitchen table, the one where we'd blown out candles and done taxes and signed late permission slips. The yellow recipe card on the mantel had my grandmother's hand on it even now, butter softening between lines. Riley, she said finally, and it was my name as a plea, which was not new and still felt new. Come home. I am home, I said, and the word didn't snap back at me like a rubber band. I love you. The admission surprised us both. I'll talk later. Don't hang up, she said, an old reflex stampeding a new situation. In the background, Brooke's voice rose and the bright ring of Liv's questions patterned the air. A dog barked Nacho correct to his job. Someone bumped the table. A cup chimed the table edge and survived. I'll call you tonight, I said. It wasn't a promise to fix anything. It was a timestamp. I ended the call before my resolve dressed up as something else. 3 more calls stacked themselves immediately. Brooke. Dad. Brooke again. I turned the phone face down and set it on the dresser. The room grew quiet in the exact same way a shore path does when you step off the street. Downstairs in the dining room, someone laughed. Walls do that in old inns. They keep a sentence for later and return it to you. I pocketed the room key and walked out. The porch had 2 rocking chairs that understood the assignment. I past them, went down the steps, and found the shore path because everyone does the first day. The bay held a color lakes don't know. Lobster boats bobbed with names painted in patient fonts. Perseverance, Agnes Little Joe. On a bench, a brass plaque said, "For Pat, who walked fast and then sat a while." A woman in a red jacket pointed at a gull and told a story I didn't hear. At the end of the path, a kayak shop hung life vests on a pegboard like a careful grammar. The guy behind the counter had a beard and a cadence that belonged to this place. "Wind's gentle," he said. "Fog might roll in later, but for now you'll be fine between the buoys." I signed the waiver with hands that had done more transactional signing than ceremonial lately. He steadied the plastic shell while I slid in. The paddle found its weight. Cold water touched my knuckles and woke each joint to its purpose. Gulls worked their arguments overhead. From the harbor, a bell found the slow kind note it always had in it. Out past the last dock, the surface wrinkled where a breeze moved through. The kayak nosed forward. I kept my eyes where water met sky, where lines are honesty itself. Then I set the blade and pulled. The kayak skimmed the crease where the bay turned darker, a line the eye could sit on. I kept my stroke easy until the rental dock shouldered back into view. When my hull bumped rubber, the kid with the beard steadied me with 2 fingers like he was turning a page. On the walk up, my arms felt wrung out in a good way, the kind of tired that answers itself. Back at the inn, I peeled off the life vest and let the porch swallow me. Rockers creaked at the pace of a porch's patience. I took one of the sticky buns from the plate under glass and broke it open with my thumbs. The sugar glazed my nails, the cinnamon refused to apologize. My phone slept on the table beside the plate. The bay worked through a handful of colors and kept one. When I finally picked up the phone, I didn't open messages. I opened notes, entitled a blank page "Boundary Rules," which sounded like something an HOA would mail, and also like the right words in the right order. I wrote without thinking too hard. Ask is not the same as expect. No does not require an essay. Don't trade your breath for someone else's convenience. Love doesn't turn people into infrastructure. If it hurts to carry, set it down and see who complains. The list wasn't a manifesto. It was a grocery list with items I tended to forget. I laced my shoes and walked the shore path again because I had legs and it had a path. Granite warmed under my feet where the sun had sat. A kid threw bread at gulls and learned about consequences 1 beak at a time. A couple in matching windbreakers told me the names of islands like they were relatives porcupine, this porcupine, that then argued over which one was sheep. I climbed the steps to the street and found a bookstore that smelled like old paper and salt. A postcard rack rattled when I turned it. I thumbed past lighthouses until I found a small card with a plain sky and a sentence. "You don't have to stay where you were put." I bought it and didn't write on it. Gorham Mountain rose like a promise someone would keep if you didn't rush them. The trail wasn't long, but the rocks asked you to mean it. Halfway up, I stopped at a slab and mouthed my breath into something regular. A woman ahead of me, gray braid calves like truth, waited without making a show of it. "Wet spot up there," she said when I caught up. "Step left of the blue blaze." "Thanks." First time on this hill." "Then welcome." She tapped the blaze and kept going. At the top, the world made a bowl of light and put water in it. I sat against a low boulder and let my back remember sitting without a screen. Someone's dog trotted over muzzle white, with year's eyes the color of tea, and leaned in with the shameless authority of the old. "You remind me of someone," I told him, and he wagged as if on a schedule. The couple in matching windbreakers arrived grinning and named the islands again correctly this time. I tried to memorize the horizon line and failed with pleasure. My phone rang when I was halfway down and the signal returned. June Ant blinked across the top, a relic of how I'd labeled numbers in college. I pressed the green button and leaned against a birch. Riley, Hart, Aunt June said, voices crisp as lettuce, "Your mother's retelling of this week is something for the annals. Which edition did you get? The one where you boarded a mystery train and left a trail of chaos." She left out the preface about the fake emergency. Paper rustled. I pictured her kitchen, the one with the rooster clock and the good light. I asked for the preface. She performed shock. "That tracks." My hand found the birch's papery bark and worried it. Are you calling to scold or to gossip? To tell you I see you, she said. Not saccharine, just accurate. And to say your mother has been doing family helps family like it's a spell for years. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it burns eyebrows. I laughed into the leaves. I could use my eyebrows. Keep them, she said. Also, your grandmother used to say, ask June to watch your babies don't trick her into showing up. She'd be on your side here. I pictured the yellow index card on the mantel and the neat loops of my grandmother's hand. Butter at room temp. Sugar creamed until your arm complains. I'm in Maine, I said, surprising both of us with a softness that slid in. There's a bell out in the bay. It keeps time better than Ohio. You always did like a coast, she said. Call me if you need a witness. She let the sentence settle. Do what keeps you sound. After we hung up, I stood a minute longer, thumb sticky with birch skin. Relief arrived sideways. Not relief that anyone had approved me, just that someone else knew the map. Back in town, I ducked into a diner with windows that understood how to frame water. The waitress called me Han like she'd already forgiven me for tipping mediocre. I ate fried haddock that confirmed haddock's existence and drank coffee that did the same for coffee. A message from Inez slid into the top of my screen. Review went fine. Your dashboard saved 2 arguments. Team says hi. Also stellar work on the churn flags client noticed. The compliment didn't fix anything and also fixed a few small things that had been dented. I typed appreciate you. Off-gridish for the afternoon. 3 dots. Good. B. That was her whole sentence. Fog worked the bay in the late afternoon. It didn't rush. It arrived the way a thought does, building detail, until even boats lost their outlines. I sat on the inn's veranda with a blanket across my knees, like a person capable of taking instructions from a blanket. When the bell moaned, it sounded closer, as if fog shortened distance without asking permission. Mom called after dinner. I let it go once, twice, then picked up. Riley, less edge, more air. We didn't go. I figured. The children were... Brooke says feral, but I think that's too strong. Your father looked at me like I'd ordered weather wrong. A breath. We lost the deposit on the hotel. I'm sorry, I said, and didn't add about that part, or not about the rest. My voice found a plank and steadied. I told June what happened. She said almost a confession and almost a test. She told me what you told her. Then everyone's versions align. I let the quiet sit. Fog padded across the porch boards as if it had weight. I should not have said spike like that. Mom admitted the sentence assembled from unfamiliar pieces. I was dizzy last week. I wanted you home. The word home came out wearing quotation marks. You can want that, I said. You can also say it without dressing it as a crisis. Families help each other, she said, but softer. They do. I said back, matching the volume. They also ask. And they take turns. She took in breath the way a person takes in the smell of a pie and tries to identify the spice. I don't like feeling like you've gotten away from us. I know I said and felt the truth of that in the soles of my feet. I'm 32 and I did. I know, she echoed, and the words went somewhere she hadn't labeled. In the background, I heard the staccato of Finn's plastic hammer and the soft shh sound Brooke made when she thought calm could be generated by friction alone. Your father says hello. Tell him hello. I pictured Dad's socks the way he folded them into each other like moon jellyfish. We stood in the fog together across 1,000 miles and 2 stubborn sets of habits. I'll let you go, she said at last. You sound occupied. I'm watching the bay breathe, I said, and hated that it sounded like a line from a brochure. I'll call another day. Do? A small pause. Silly. I love you. The sentence found its mark without theatrics. I love you too. We hung up like adults, no slam doors, no freeze-outs. Fog licked the porch rail and went on its way. Days in a place like that stack without complaint. I walked under spruce and over granite. I learned which coffee shop understood the order hot, but not aggressive. I said good morning to the same older couple on the path, until we were the kind of acquaintances who swap weather as if we invented it. I slept like a person who had rented her whole body out to the day and gotten it back in one piece. When I checked my phone, the family thread had cooled from boiling to simmer. A picture of Liv holding the teal scrunchie appeared with no caption. Evan sent a photo of Max in a swimmer's cap, looking like a disappointed pair. Brooke wrote, "He didn't eat the noodle." Mom added a photo of Finn asleep with his mouth open, and the kind of affection that gives away strategy. I hearted the pictures without commentary. It was enough and exactly right. On the last morning, the bell out in the bay sounded like a clock you could wear on your wrist. I packed the day pack without the drama of packing a suitcase. The inn's desk clerk slid a receipt across the counter with a chocolate balanced on top of it like a period. Outside, gulls graffitied the sky. The drive to Bangor held the same blueberries and antiques, the same houses poised for weather. The airport was gentle about telling me to take off my shoes. 2 flights later, Austin's air wrapped me in heat that had a body to it. My apartment smelled like the plant in the kitchen had needed water 5 days ago and decided not to be dramatic about it. Dust had sketched a soft outline on the bookshelf. I opened a window and let the city come in the hum of a bus, a shout with laughter stitched to it, a cicada's electric patience. I put the day pack on the table and stood there until the AC made the room believe in effort again. On my way back from the grocery store, the kind of errand that proves you exist where you claim to. I stopped at the bank of mailboxes by the stairs. Junk flyers, a coupon for tires. I would not buy a catalog that assumed I wore linen in neutral tones, and one envelope off-white and slightly heavy my name, in my mother's careful script, the return address a small square of Maple Ridge. I held it by the corner, the way you hold a moth so you don't dust its wings. The paper warmed in my hand. I slipped it into the day pack's front pocket and climbed the stairs. The apartment door clicked shut with the quiet of a thing that has always known how to close. I set the grocery bag on the counter and took the envelope from the day pack's front pocket. Off-white, a little weight to it, my name in my mother's neat schoolteacher hand. The flap gave with a soft sigh. Inside, a check, her cursive curling in the memo line, and a single sheet of stationery from the Maple Ridge florist. For the money we borrowed. Sorry it took so long, Mom. I stood there with the paper half out of its sleeve, AC, threading the hairs on my arm. The handwriting was familiar. The way a street is familiar. You don't think I know this until your feet have already turned the corner. I set the note on the counter, smoothed the fold with my palm, and scanned the check into my banking app. The little bar filled. The green checkmark flashed. Accepted. I texted received. Thank you. A minute later, you're welcome. Love, Mom. No punctuation fights, no justification, just the line. I leaned a hip into the counter and let the room find its size again. The plant over the sink drooped in a way that suggested it preferred drama to death. I filled a measuring cup and tipped water into the soil until the dark spread. Outside, the cicadas performed their electricity. A bus exhaled at the corner. Groceries away, I rinsed an apple and ate it, standing thumb, catching juice at my wrist. The postcard from Maine, the sky plane, the sentence plane came out of my wallet and went under a magnet shaped like a guitar. You don't have to stay where you were put. The magnet held without an effort. From the day pack's small pocket, I shook the 2 pins into my hand. Take the long way, and here goes. I rolled them between my fingers, then pushed the second one through the strap's webbing until the point found its clasp on the other side. The metal clicked shut. The pack looked different by exactly the degree I needed it to. I'd brought back a carton of eggs and a pack of tortillas because that's what returning looks like in a kitchen. I folded one into the pan until it blistered, slid an egg in the middle, folded again, ate it at the counter with hot sauce and a paper towel. The room smelled faintly of Maine salt and Austin heat, and something like possibility, which is just clean air with better advertising. I carried the envelope to the small table by the window and sat with it. There was nothing to answer, no ledger to balance. I put the stationery back inside, sealed nothing, and filed it in the drawer that holds warranties and spare keys, and the instruction booklet for a fan I no longer own. The paper made a dry sound that belonged to it alone. On the bookshelf, a recipe card I'd written to myself years ago had lost its tape and slid behind the salt cellar. I fished it out. Butter room temp. Sugar until your arm complains. I'd copied it once from my grandmother's handwriting when a photo would have been easier. I tucked it under the magnet next to the postcard, the 2 rectangles crooked together like a private grammar. The sink gathered the apple core in the pan and waited. I washed without thinking, wrists turning the way they do when motion has memory. The window admitted a slice of campus radio, a guitar, someone's voice trying to be casual about heartache. In the next building, a couple laughed in the stutter. That means an inside joke survived an argument. The city made the same old noise, and it wasn't old. My phone buzzed on this counter. Aunt June heard a rumor that paper moved across state lines. It did, I typed. Not framed, filed. A beat. Good place for it. How's the rooster clock? Always 5 minutes fast. Keeps me humble. Then you sound better in text. Keep doing whatever resulted in that. I could hear her kitchen even from here, that square of light with the table everyone ends up at whether they meant to or not. I sent a photo of the postcard on the fridge. She sent back a thumbs up sticker I didn't know she knew how to find. Dusk put its hand on the windowsill. I turned the lamp on, and the room took the shape it always takes at this hour, small intact mine. I opened the note app and scrolled past the list I'd written on the in-porch. 5 lines. Not a contract. I didn't add to it. I didn't need to. Before bed, I grabbed the day pack by one strap and set it by the door. Habit always wants to convert a decision into a ritual. Sometimes it earns the right. The strap brushed my thigh. The pin clicked against the buckle in a small, satisfied way. I lay down and left the blinds open a finger's width. The ceiling fan loped along like a horse that knows the field and sees no reason to overdo it. My phone skated once more. Inez a 2-word email that managed to be both practical and kind. Welcome back. I didn't reply. Not tonight. Streetlight slipped across the floorboards, drew a clean bar, and held. I watched it cross to the wall and stop. The building settled. My breath climbed up and down the same small ladder, steady as a bell on quiet water. When I reached out to touch the edge of the day pack with my toes, the metal pin was cool as a coin and sure of itself. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.